All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Play Pause Rewind. This is our 13th episode. Back to the movie theaters. Finally, we saw Black Widow. Niles, how are you doing this evening?
I'm great. I'm doing great. Just coming off of a birthday weekend, so always happy to do that. And yeah, 13 is also a lucky number in my family, so I didn't realize that this was the
That's
13th
very odd.
episode. Yeah, a little bit. But I'm doing great. I'm happy to talk about this movie, and yeah, just like you were saying, this was our first time getting back to the movie theater, probably in over a year, something like that.
I was looking back, well, real quick, actually. Do you care to share why 13 is a lucky number, or is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of something in my family.
You just
I don't
decided.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know the reason why. Just
Okay.
13's kind of a lucky number in the family. So
Cool. Very, very strange, but cool. Yeah, no, I think getting back to the theater, I looked back and I was thinking about it. I don't think I saw anything in January or February of 2020, so this is my first movie in a theater since 2019.
dang, wow.
Wild. And there were a couple movies that I wanted to see in theaters before this, but these Marvel movies are some of the few that I think like you and I can get others of our friends to come to the movies with us, and so a more of an event thing to get a bunch of people to go together. So it was a good time. Loved being back.
Yeah,
And as always, we're going to do brief non-spoilers, maybe a little bit more this time because it's a brand new movie, and then we'll jump into spoilers for the rest of it. So if you have not seen the movie, just dip out at that point. We'll catch you later. What are your general non-spoilery thoughts on Black Widow?
yeah. Well, overall, this was, I think, a great film. Great film. uh, it felt like a return to basics, for like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like especially coming off of like, the past two movies or those past two big movies, Endgame and Infinity War. Those were these big climactic films that they've been building to for 10 years, and now that we've passed it, I'm glad that they put out this movie because it just felt like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's cool down and let's just focus on what we do really well. And what they do really well, I feel like, is like, this kind of spy thriller kind of fun action movie. And I think that's exactly what Black Widow is. So I think overall this is, I really enjoyed this film. Is it the best Marvel movie I've ever seen? No. But it was definitely a very fun experience. And, I'm glad that we got back to the theater as well. I think that's like half of the experience, is like seeing these
Yeah, that
Marvel
added
films
to it.
yeah, right in the cinema. I think that's like so much fun. What about you? What were your initial thoughts for the film?
Yeah, so I'll preface what I'm about to say by the clarification that, like, I do not think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has any film that is below fine. I know some people will disagree, but I honestly think they have a bar of quality, a minimum bar of quality that is pretty good. Like, you're going to have a good time at a Marvel movie, whether or not it holds up on repeat viewing, I don't know, whatever. To each their own. I think this is one of the lesser Marvel movies, especially since I have grown to gravitate a lot towards the more cosmic, weird stuff. And I think it's also hurt because it's coming out in the wake of all of these Disney Plus shows that I think have just been kind of hit after hit in different ways. And I think Falcon and Winter Soldier does the spy genre stuff too, but I think it does it a little bit better. So I will say Black Widow is all right. It is long overdue that this character got a movie, though. In fact,
Yes.
even too late, as I'll get into later in spoilers. But I liked it, though. I had fun with it. I like all the characters. I like Natasha Romanoff. I like the new Black Widow character that we meet in this, Florence Pugh's character, Yelena. I like Red Guardian, or Alexei, a lot.
Yes.
He is played by David Harbour. And Rachel Weisz's character, Melina, she was all right. She's I put it in spoilers, but I don't think it really is. She's in it a lot less than I thought she was. So, like, she was fine and served her role, but she was not as memorable as a David Harbour in this movie. I did not think. But even though I'm not totally in love with the movie, I am totally in love with the first 20 minutes of the movie, because it was awesome. To that in spoilers, but there is an opening sequence that's kind of a flashback, and then there is an opening credit sequence to a cover of Nirvana, and it was pretty great. And I don't think the movie ever matched that again. But
yeah, that's I would agree because the first like 20 minutes of that is a great opening sequence, and I love me some good covers of Nirvana. That I think it was beautiful. Uh, but yeah, I think like the rest of the movie, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Um, just as a light spoiler, this movie kind of takes place between
Civil War and Infinity War.
Infinity War. So, going into this film, I definitely expected this to be more of like an origin story for Black Widow. I thought we were going to get more of like what she, like her training, the background stuff. Like we only got like a glimpse of that in Age of Ultron, a little flashback to like her training in that academy or whatever. And it was really strict. And we learned a little bit about her background and all that stuff. But, I just wanted more of that, and this story isn't exactly an origin story, but it kind of is. It's just like not the time frame that we were expecting, I would say.
We do learn a lot more about her origin, but it's not the focus of the movie, which is, I mean, that may have been a more interesting movie as well to see that, but I'm okay that it wasn't a total origin, but the fact that we are jumping back all of this time. I think Marcus on Cosmonaut Variety Hour said, like, Captain America Civil War came out when Obama was still president. That's how long ago that movie came out. And it's a great movie, and that's an interesting time period that's largely unexplored for a lot of our characters, because for the Avengers characters at least, we jump from Civil War to Infinity War. That's a big time gap. So it's like, it's fine that we're exploring that era, but why now?
Why not like a few years ago?
And we can talk more about this in spoilers, but do we really learn is what we learn in this movie important for Natasha's character growth before Infinity War? I would say no. So if that's the case, why is this the story they decided to tell? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but I think if you and I feel like are definitely not diehard fans, but we're fans of the MCU. We like the MCU. We've watched everything that the MCU has put out
multiple times, probably.
Yes, you more than me. I'd say.
I think the only ones I have not seen multiple times are like The Incredible Hulk and Ant-Man 2. And I like Ant-Man 2. It was fine. I did see a funny thing today or yesterday though. Someone ran into Lawrence Fishburne in public and was like, he probably expected them to ask him about the Matrix or something. And they're like, "I loved you in Ant-Man and the Wasp," and he was like, "In what? Oh wait, I was in that. Thank you," which is very sad, but very funny.
That's a good one.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the MCU, but I'm not like one of the people you'll see on Twitter or Instagram who is like, you critique one element of a Marvel movie and I will jump down your throat for the next 15 hours. Like that's unhealthy.
Sure, that's a little toxic too. But
that is what we call a stan. Don't be a stan.
But yeah, I think for people who aren't as like diehard fans of the MCU that haven't seen every single movie, that aren't gonna like be all caught up with this series, going into this movie. If you do go to watch this movie, I feel like you might be a little lost just because of that time frame jump. If that makes sense.
Well, I think the story of Black Widow is pretty standalone and self-contained, but the post credits will baffle you. But I think any of these post credit scenes would baffle a casual viewer. Like they're very much nerd fodder. But it's a weird, because it's like her character growth neither starts nor ends in this movie. So I agree with you in that sense. Like from a character perspective, it's like, what's going on and why? If you just, but I don't want to be gatekeeper or anything, but it would be kind of odd to start your Marvel experience with this movie specifically. I think I'm a completionist in terms of viewing, so I would always recommend just start at the first one, just start at Iron Man and work your way through. You'll be glad that you did. But if you were gonna jump in at a later point, which I'm sure a lot of people have, I would start with a movie that's the first of a new character's films.
Yeah.
Like maybe jump in with the Eternals when that comes out. Like I don't think that's gonna be good to anything else.
Yeah, or like Captain Marvel or something like that would.
Yeah.
Those would be like good standalone films to kind of catch you up, but at the same
true
time,
origin story. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's not to say that this is a bad movie or anything like that. Like, I think it's a good movie, and I mean, it definitely broke records. I'm sure that a lot of people, if you are listening, that you've seen some of those headlines. We just got some numbers here on the screen here where Black Widow broke records in the box office, especially during the pandemic. Not many people have been going to the theaters during the pandemic, and now we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
For good reason.
Exactly, yeah. For good reason, we haven't been going to the theaters, but, people wanted to go get out and see this movie and watch this movie and get caught up. So, it got $80 million from domestic box office, and this movie came out on Thursday. We're recording this on a Monday, so in that short span of time, it's got $80 million domestic, $60 million from Disney Plus Premier Access, and $78 million from international sales.
And just for further detail, like the movie launched day and date on Disney Plus for $30, I believe. You could purchase it on there. And I think, what was the budget? Let me see if they have the budget online. I should look it up. Black Widow budget. Budget was around $200 million, so it's made its money back already. I mean, it's a pretty solid opening weekend, I would say, for one of these. And Marvel movies, I think, tend to have pretty okay legs, so I think it will be.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk about this actually because the Disney Plus number is so high in comparison to the domestic box office. What do you think this means for the and given the day and like the times, like if you felt more comfortable staying at home and watching it there, fucking awesome. Like do it. If you feel safer in the current times, that's great. But I think about like Disney and how much they're pushing Disney Plus, and if this movie did so well on Disney Plus, what do you think this means for movie theaters going forward? If these studios start to discover like we can make a lot of money by just releasing these digitally on our proprietary services and cutting out theaters. Do you think there is a danger of that, or do you think this is more evidence that day and date digital and theatrical releases can coexist? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would argue that they're going to continue to exist together. Those same date releases, I think that's going to continue being a thing. Like, especially until the pandemic's over for good, that people are not going to be entirely comfortable going to the movie theater, and that's completely understandable, and you should be able to view the movie how you want to view it. But it does kind of pose an interesting, dilemma for the movie theaters, because, if you can just watch everything at home, then why do I need to go to a movie theater to go see it? Why do I got to go drive to go see the movie? It's... I guess it's for the experience, of course, but
yeah, and there's the double-edged sword of the experience, because you get the better sound and the big screen, but also you could have some jackass in the front row who's like talking to their friend on their phone the whole time. So
yeah,
I like the choice being there, and maybe if I want to watch, like, it is nice that I could just, if I wanted to, just buy Black Widow on Disney Plus right when we're done recording and just watch it again without having to go anywhere. Like, that is cool. But I hope this does not signal the beginning of the end for theaters. I don't think it will, but it's going to be something that'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I don't think it definitely. I don't think it means the end of movie theaters or anything like that, or at least for several years. Like we'll have to see where it goes in the future. But I think you just can't beat going to the movie theater. Like, it's such an experience, and like what we were just saying about going back to the movie theater after not being there for a year and a half or whatever, that was so fun. It was so cool. It should just be like, I'm gonna get some popcorn and some drinks, and I'm gonna go sit down, and we gonna gossip about the trailers and
and just like even with just waiting for the post-credit scene, it's kind of fun in these movies, because at this point, anyone who's in a Marvel movie theater knows, okay, just sit tight for a few minutes. it's odd when someone gets up and starts walking away. I was like, are you sure you want to do that? You're part of the movie. But yeah, no, I agree. I love the experience of going to theater, especially for genres like this, like sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure. And obviously support indie films in theaters too. But I think these specific genres lean more heavily on the theatrical experience than more like not low budget necessarily, but more like human to human films.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you have to. I think that the studio execs are probably also factoring in. Okay, if one person buys this on Disney Plus, there could be 6 people in the room watching it with them, and they could share the password with someone else, and then they could watch the movie, So there's like a way there someone could, even though you're paying $30 for the movie, you could still. It's kind of, I guess, a little bit of piracy, but not really, because you're within the confines of the system.
Fuck it, it's Disney. They have all the money.
But because people can do that, they can kind of find the loopholes in the system to watch the movie.
Right.
People, they're going to be like, no, we want to still put this in the theaters. People are still going to want to go see this in the theaters. And we're not getting rid of that revenue stream just yet.
Right. Yeah. But I guess overall, before we get into spoilers, because I think we've talked about money enough, thoughts on Black Widow? Recommend? Don't recommend? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd say, yeah, give it a watch. It's fun. I didn't find myself to be bored at any point throughout this film. I think the performances were great. The director, Kate Shortland, she did a fantastic job with this film. So yeah, I would say watch it. But I don't think it's like moving forward in the MCU. I don't know how necessary it is for you to watch it, but it was still a good movie. What about you? What would you say?
Yeah, I agree. If you like Marvel movies, you're gonna see this. No, like obviously,
Yep.
But I would say it was good. It's not my favorite Marvel movie. It's better than the worst, but it's nowhere near the best.
Yep.
But Black Widow's a cool character. It's cool to see her again. It's nice that they finally wrote a movie around one of their principal 6 Avengers. So yeah, I mean it's got some problems, which we'll get more into. But overall, it's a fun sort of probably farewell for Natasha Romanoff. So.
Yes. Yeah. Good for her. She did it. She finally got her movie.
Finally. Spoilers starting now. Now. So, the opening of the movie, we see small Natasha, young, probably like 10 or something, right? I would living in America, in kind of the Midwest somewhere, with her family, or what seems to be her family. But it's just a deep cover-up for the Russian government. And so they got to get out of there. And there is a great chase sequence on a plane, on a runway. Cuba, and then they have the opening credits where you see Natasha and her little sister, Yelena, like being shipped into the Black Widow program. It's very haunting. And it sets a great spy movie tone for the film that even in movies like Winter Soldier, which are the most spy espionage-y of the MCU, I don't think the spy movie tone has ever been reached to the extent that it was in the early parts of this movie. And then I would say as soon as Taskmaster shows up on that bridge, the movie loses that tone.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very interesting for you to say that. I think when you lay it out like that, I would agree. Because yeah, once he shows up and the explosion happens and Natasha's like, she's got her concussion getting out of the car. It's like, okay, yeah, this isn't really a spy thriller anymore. This is more like action kind of thriller movie now, which I'm fine with. But yeah, I think it definitely kind of changes.
It went from a very unique in its own thing within the franchise, and I'll qualify when I say something like that about a Marvel movie, I'm generally speaking within the confines of the MCU. It does this thing. I'm not going to say like, wow, the Eternals is such like hard sci-fi. It's more than 2001. Like it's more cerebral than that. It's like, fuck no, that's stupid. It's more like Like, if I say that about a movie in the MCU, I'm talking about it within the scope of the franchise. Don't get mad at me. But yeah, the beginning is just so strong, and even when she like meets her contact at that little safe house, he's like, "Here are your passports," and it's kind of quiet, and she's in a little cabin in the snow. It reminded me of the Jeremy Renner Bourne movie a little bit in that part, and also just the part where she's on the phone with Ross in the bathroom reminded me of the Matt Damon Bourne movies a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
it's one step ahead of the authorities trying to catch her, followed by following that really great opening sequence. So it's like, okay, we have a lot of promise starting off, and then it goes into the more typical Marvel fare, which is not bad. It just didn't live up to the potential that it started with, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree a little bit. Yeah, because I think at that point it definitely does kind of follow the typical narrative that we'll see in a lot of Marvel films where it's protagonist has to overcome and stop the big old baddie from
World domination.
world domination, being able to topple countries with a single press of a button, and they fight, and the bad guy isn't really relatable at all, and like,
Or in the movie, much at all.
yeah, he's not very relatable, he's not. I mean, he's a fine villain. He works, but he's no Killmonger or anything like that. He's nowhere like near that kind of caliber of a villain. Like, he's just kind of, I'm the bad guy for the sake of being bad. I'm the big old Russian character who's clearly bad because I'm Russian. But I mean, yeah, I think, other than that, the structure wasn't too bad for the film, and there were some good reveals in there that I wasn't expecting. And, I think you have it here in the show notes, I think, a little here about like how the family, the family unit is definitely the core of the film, and that definitely carries it all the way through to the end, is that family, I'd say.
And that's interesting because I agree the family is the heart of the film, which is why I wrote it. But I don't think it quite carries it. I think the relationship between the two adoptive sisters, Natasha and Yelena, is very strong. But I think, and I like the relationship with Alexei and Milena as well. But they are absent for a very large chunk of the movie. And then I don't know exactly why, but the family dynamic doesn't quite click into place for me in the way I want it to. I like all of the characters and I enjoy them, especially when Alexei is like standing with them after the prison break and he's like, "You've probably killed so many people. I'm so proud of you." It's like, that's very funny. He's a great character, and David Harbour seems to be having a lot of fun with him. But
Yes.
I don't know what it was. I just, it didn't work totally. It didn't carry, and maybe it just needed, maybe it was the fact that they focus on the family for a little bit and then they have big action at the end. But they don't even get to Milena until late in the second act, I would say, right? To her little house with the pigs.
Yeah, she doesn't pop back up for a while, and I would agree with what you're saying. I think it is more focused on the two sisters, but I definitely think that was an intentional choice on their part because moving forward, I'm blanking on her name. Florence Pugh's character. Clearly after that post-credits scene, she's clearly kind of taken up that Black Widow role where she's going to be this badass assassin woman who's going to be, helping out. We'll see in what regard there, but she's kind of clearly picking up the mantle and carrying it on. And the parents, sure, they can be involved in like the story, but they're never going to get their own solo movie or anything like that. They're going to be like side characters, maybe down the line.
Right. Which is one, and circling back to what we talked about in non-spoilers, this movie came out too late, I think. It's a big problem because we're emotionally jumping back years in this story. We saw, I think Civil War was 2016. It was ages ago. And Natasha is dead, and we've known she's dead, or been dead for 2 years. And granted, this movie was supposed to come out a year ago, but the point remains the same. So they're not starting a franchise for her. This is a swan song, pretty much, because barring some shenanigans, she's dead, and she's probably not coming back, and they're probably going to use Florence Pugh's Black Widow going forward. So a lot of the excitement that can come from meeting a new supporting cast in this movie, like they are, is getting to see them in sequels, and we'll probably see them in the Florence Pugh Black Widow movie if they make that. But it's long enough to make the first one, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get that in 10 years, probably.
Yeah, but and it's not slated in the next phase at all, and be because they were keeping it a secret because they didn't want to give away Black Widow spoilers, whatever. I don't know, but it's very it's just strange to put this movie here because you killed her already, and it makes me looking back at Endgame. I love Endgame; it's great. And I think Natasha's death in that movie is effective in that movie. But the more I think about it and the more distance we have from it, I'm starting to think killing her was a mistake.
I'm okay with her being killed off in Endgame, but, I think it could have been maybe valuable to, I don't know, release this movie in between Infinity War and Endgame. So we got like a little bit of backstory for her. But then that could have... People probably could have predicted after that movie being like, okay, Black Widow's going to die in Endgame. Like,
yes, but actually I was listening to the Weekly Planet podcast this morning, and they talked about what if Black Widow came out between Infinity War and Endgame, and the post-credit scene, as it is, still happened in that movie, in Black Widow. Ooh. So we go into Endgame knowing the Black Widow will die. So that does... but it takes away the surprise of her death, but it also adds something because the information we're provided is she is dead and it's Hawkeye's fault. So now the entire movie, we are thinking, what the hell happens? How does she die? What does Clint do to get her killed? And so it's the it's that Hitchcock thing. It's the surprise versus suspense. Have you ever heard that quote of his? I
don't think so.
Okay, so there's he talks about two ways to edit a scene, basically, and not that Black Widow's death in Endgame was devoid of suspense or emotional impact. It had that, but Hitchcock describes a scene where a bunch of characters go into a restaurant, they sit at a table, they talk for a few minutes, and then a bomb goes off. And then you take the same scene, but you give the audience a bit more information. You show the bomb being planted first, and then the characters come into the table and are sitting and talking. And so now you go from having like that quick 10-second surprise of the bomb going off to the entire 10-minute sequence. You're just thinking, there's a bomb. There's a bomb there. Get out. Move. So
right.
I've added that kind of element to when she goes to find Hawkeye early in Endgame. You're like, no, don't find him. Don't go find him. And then together, kind of quipping back and forth, you're going to be like, what the hell is going to happen? So just the amount that scene could have added to Endgame by taking something significant away as well just makes me even more sad that it came out now instead of then.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That would have been very suspenseful. And going into Endgame, I probably just would have been thinking, how's she gonna die? How's she gonna die? Yeah, that would have been a nice way to build some tension in Endgame. But at the same time, Endgame already had a lot going on.
It did.
It had a lot. It had high stakes and stuff. And
yeah, Endgame is great. I'm not shitting on Endgame, and I'm not trying to shit on this movie either. I just think like you too little, too late. You had this character since 2010, 11 years, and you just now gave her a movie after you killed her. It's just kind of upsetting. And now you can't build a franchise with her unless you. I know the MCU is capable of resurrecting characters, and they will probably do it to a degree that annoys me. Ron. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The moment they resurrect Tony Stark is the moment I quit. I'm out.
Yes.
But
100%.
yeah, and enough on that note, though. I'm railing it into the ground.
Yeah, let's talk about something we liked. So I see a note here because about the Red Guardian. He sounds like he was your favorite character, and I think he was probably my favorite character too.
I actually think maybe new Black Widow, Florence Pugh, might be my favorite character, but Red Guardian is a funny one. He's the comic relief, but he has more depth than he initially seems to. I like him at the beginning. I like how they don't even tell us that he has superpowers until he just flips a truck over just casually.
Yeah.
And then is like chilling on a plane wing shooting cops while it's flying away. Then he's very funny. He's a very humorous character. And it's possible that he fought a version of Captain America, as he claims to. But my read on it, and I think yours may be the same, is that he has just been lying about fighting Captain America so long that he believes it and is genuinely perplexed that no one is acknowledging that this thing happened. What did you think of his character?
I loved it. I thought he was so funny, and like even when we were like, when he was in the prison and he was arm wrestling those dudes, I thought that was so funny, and how he's like, he doesn't have the earpiece, and he's like trying to talk to everyone. And they're like,
Yeah.
dude, you don't have an earpiece. She can't hear you. Like,
Why not?
and he's like, in case we don't make it, like, I love you. Oh, you're gone. Okay, never mind then.
Well, yeah, and before he realizes he doesn't have the earpiece, he's like spilling out his heart to Natasha and like confessing how bad of a dad he was and saying he's happy, and then she just can't hear any of it because she's not here. And that's the first time the MCU has ever done something like that. They always are talking to each other, and they always all have earpieces.
Yeah, it was the first time that they were like, you have to know who has an earpiece and who doesn't. Like, yeah, it has to be shown they're giving you one.
Yeah.
I think he did I really liked Red Guardian. And, a thought popped into my head just now. Maybe the battles he's talking about with Captain America are true, but it's not Cap, it's Isaiah.
Yeah, Isaiah would be kind of older by then because he's happened in 1984, and Isaiah was Captain America or Cap adjacent in the 50s, but it's possible. Maybe. I don't remember in the show when Isaiah says he's in jail, but it could line up. And that's what I'm thinking too, or they could have tried the serum again on someone else. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's funnier if he's just lying, but I'm good with whatever.
That can be our headcanon forever. There was just this post, just because, we'll talk about Loki next week, or in our next episode.
Yeah, because Loki's finale is the day this episode goes live.
Yes, so sorry we're not talking about Loki today, but next time we will talk about Loki. Very excited to talk about that series, but I saw this post today that was like, Alexei is just a variant of Hopper from It's Stranger Things. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see that.
That's what happened to him when he... No, I'm not going to do Stranger Things spoilers here.
Yeah, let's...
mean. I liked, though, and on this note, I saw on Twitter today, he has a bunch of tattoos, obviously, and one of the tattoos on his arm is Russian for Natasha and Yelena. So it visually seeding earlier in the film than he does that he genuinely did love and care about them, even if he talks about them as just an op, which is an interesting added element to his character. Like, he, in the beginning, he seems like a very good dad in America, but then as soon as he gets to Cuba, he barely even speaks to them when they're when they think their mom is dying and they're crying. He's just like, dude, put me back in the suit. I want to be Red Guardian again. I don't want to do this undercover bullshit anymore. Completely ignoring his kids, and then he treats them like they were an op when they reunite for a while. And it's towards the end that he finally opens up to Yelena, and it's like, no, I did care a lot.
Yeah, I think he had some good emotional weight all throughout the film. Yeah, great character. What did you think about Taskmaster, the villain, or one of the villains, I guess?
Villains, yes. So I don't know much about this character from the comics other than he, in the comic books, is nothing like this character in the movie. I don't think he has any ties to... I think the Dreykov thing is a movie invention, although I could be totally bullshitting that. But, so Taskmaster in this is Dreykov, the ultimate villain of the movie's daughter. And the significant thing about Dreykov's daughter is that when Natasha was first clearing her name to become an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., she seemingly killed Dreykov's daughter, a little kid, because she needed to kill Dreykov to show her loyalty, and the building was not clear, which we find out in this movie. But I don't know if you remember this, but Dreykov's daughter has been an MCU item since 2012 in the first event, and that is from the scene where Loki is in the little glass prison on the helicarrier, and Natasha goes and speaks with him, and he is trying to manipulate her and freak her out, and he mentions Dreykov's daughter and as an element of red in her ledger. And she twists that scene, and it's like, thank you for your cooperation. Haha, I was interrogating you the whole time. But that's kind of cool that they brought that back. It was just basically an offhand line in the first Avengers, and now it becomes a central part of her backstory, which is something the MCU is great at, is taking something that is a little offhand remark or joke even, and making it into a setup for a future payoff. Like Cap almost lifting Thor's hammer in Avengers Age of Ultron as a party game, comes back as a moment that caused 200 plus people in our theater to scream on opening night of Endgame. So it's they're so good at doing that, and so I like Taskmaster for that. Otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think, I didn't really know that about the first Avengers, or at least I forgot that line. They're really good at doing that, of circling it back to something that was like a little seed that was planted a long time ago, and they were like, let's see what we can grow from it. So I appreciate that, and I would agree that Taskmaster, I think is we haven't read the comics, so know nothing about this character, but I thought it was a really good reveal, honestly. I didn't see that coming. I know I should have, but that was a really clever way to reveal who's behind the mask.
Yeah, I like the safe assumption with all of these is that the masked villain will be a character that exists in the movie already, because otherwise, what's the reveal? Like in WandaVision, when everybody was like, Mephisto's behind it, and it's like, could you imagine if WandaVision had a reveal? It's like, I am Mephisto, and I did this. I haven't been in the show yet, but here I am. They're not going to do that. Unless Loki does it on Wednesday, I guess we'll see.
Well, yeah, they like to put in those little clues throughout, and if you can't see those clues on a rewatch, then it's like, well, it seems like that character just came out of left field. So.
And it's not fair to the audience to do that.
Exactly. It's like a mystery, it's like a whodunit. If you just say, oh yeah, it was the cop from across the town who shot the guy, it's like, well, that's no fun.
That's some Sherlock, BBC Sherlock bullshit.
Yeah, seriously.
I solved the crime off screen, and it was a character that you haven't met yet.
Damn it! I should have known.
But
yeah,
I agree. I didn't see it coming either. I assumed for a while, just because it was a theory I'd read online earlier, that Milena, the mom, Rachel Weisz's character, would be Taskmaster, but you find out pretty quickly that it's not her because they're in the same scene as different people.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting dynamic too. But yeah, I'm glad that they went the direction they did, and it kind of felt like a Winter villain or a Winter Soldier kind of character.
100%. Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, it's someone that is a real person, and they're just kind of brainwashed, and we just got to save them. And I like that. I like that kind of that. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Did you think, though, regarding Taskmaster, that Natasha gets let off the hook a little bit easy with how Taskmaster at the end of the movie responds after the brainwash? Because she did blow up a kid, and then the kid, as an adult, doesn't seem that upset by that post-brainwash.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Yeah, I would say that's kind of like a little plot hole.
Uh-huh.
Because yeah, if I all of a sudden came to after being brainwashed for years, and it's, oh, you're the one who killed me, or made me all disfigured and
Mm-hmm.
scarred, I think we'd have some words, some fighting
Yeah,
words.
I guess ultimately she blames most of her like misfortune on Dracoff because
Yeah.
he sucks, which fair. But and I guess ultimately Black Widow does die, so she pays the ultimate price for whatever crimes or positive things she's done in her life. But with relation to that, like I would have appreciated a bit more resentment from Taskmaster towards Natasha at the end of the movie, and maybe we'll see that because I assume we will see this character again in maybe an anti-hero capacity. I don't think she's going to be a straight up villain, but maybe like a contract killer or something. Just because it would Taskmaster is kind of an iconic Marvel villain, I think. So
Oh yeah.
it would be odd of them to sort of use her and kind of one and done her. Like I imagine she'll be a recurring figure going forward.
Yeah, I mean, just because they all kind of left on the same ship together, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just hope that the widows, like all the widows, will come back at some point in the future, and they'll be led by Taskmaster. You know, like she'll be
Mm-hmm.
kind of the leader of the group. But I don't know. That's an ideal world, and that's, you know,
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm sure that they got something far more interesting planned than you or I could come up with on this podcast.
More than likely, yes.
I'd hope so. I'd hope so. With all the money that they're making up there. Um,
Let's talk about Budapest or Budapest.
Budapest.
So, the Budapest mission that Hawkeye and Black Widow went on has been teased in the MCU since the first Avengers. They basically talk about it every time they're on screen together. And
Yep.
this movie gives us the most information about it we have gotten. Are you satisfied with this?
Well, well, are you just referring to the whole sequence that went on through Budapest?
No, more the like when Natasha and you
'Cause I-
are in the vent and you see the little tic tac toe and she talks about how she and
Oh.
hid up there for 2 days. You see arrow like holes on the walls of a different area. Like it hints more at what happened. It does not show, but it
Yeah.
discusses it more than we've seen before.
Yeah, thanks for that. I completely forgot that they hid an event. I saw this movie a few days ago and I forgot that detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did like those kind of little tiny details. That was neat to get a little bit more information. Yes, I would have liked a lot more information on what happened, like maybe a flashback, like maybe she gets knocked unconscious and then you get like a whole thing where it's like her and Hawkeye doing something and, you know, it's all in her head or something, you know, a flashback with her and Hawkeye doing something. But, you know, that's fine that they didn't put that in there. Like I don't think that we ever need to know what happened in Budapest, and that's fine with me.
I think it's one of those things similar to you fought in the Clone Wars that it's
Yeah.
more interesting as an idea of something that happened than it could ever be if it was shown on screen. Like the ideas that fans will come up with for what this nonsense Budapest mission is will probably be more fun than what is committed to screen. Similar to how the idea of a Clone War was probably more exciting to people who grew up without the prequels than what Episode 2 and 3 delivered.
Yeah.
Cartoon notwithstanding, that show was great, but
Yes.
the like some things I think both Budapest and Clone Wars line are like they're little things. They add texture to the world. They show the audience that this story world existed long before the story we're watching, and it will continue to exist afterward, and that is neat. People do this, fans do this with both of these franchises, where they're like, I need to know everything about that one, like, who's with that guy. I need a show about him, and now we're getting it. It's like, dude,
I need tiny details, all the tiny details that are insignificant.
right. It's like, you don't. Some things exist to add texture to the movie. Like you don't need a backstory for every little tiny thing, and it kind of ruins the original when you do that. So I liked Budapest in this. I liked the little tic tac toe boards that they had because they were just like there for 2 days, and just got bored. I think that's really funny. I like things like that. And it's not, they don't talk about what's on the walls there. They're like, yeah, we were up here for 2 days. And then you see the stuff they did for 2 days. It's fun.
Yeah, I don't need to know everything. Yeah, it was a good detail, and yeah, I would agree. I liked the Budapest thing. While we're speaking of Budapest, I just have to ask this question.
Yes.
We know the answer now, of course, but is Black Widow invincible? Because she's in Budapest, she survives like 2 different car crashes, and she survives like a car crash earlier in the movie, and like all these different explosions, and she fights Taskmaster hand to hand multiple times, and she gets a severe beat down by the other Black Widows. Like, they just beat the shit out of her, and she fell from like the freaking sky too.
Yeah.
And, like, she got tossed and thrown all around, and like, she's not superhuman by my understanding. She's just kind of like a regular old person with like super assassin skills, you know? So it's like, I don't know. The plot armor felt kind of strong at some points for me.
Yeah, no, and I mean, suspension of disbelief aside, because obviously the characters in these types of movies are going to survive more than a normal human could. But I think there were a couple moments where they push it a little far, which because I'm like, I don't think she's meant to be enhanced in any way. I think there are versions of Black Widow in comic books where she is. I don't think the movie version is one. It's never been addressed one way or the other. But I always kind of assumed that both she and Hawkeye were just like very capable humans, which was kind of what made them fun, that they could hold their own in an arena that includes gods. People always like shit on Black Widow and Hawkeye for being like, why are they even here? It's like, they're here because they're able to be here. They're regular ass people who are able to contribute to this conflict. That's why they're here, because they're that badass.
Yes.
Yeah, she gets like thrown into a lot of walls and falls, I think like 4 or 5 stories at one point, and just mostly walks it off. Which, you know, not movie killer like sins, but they're noting.
Well, yeah, I mean, she dies, you know, in Endgame, so she's clearly not invincible. But yeah, it's like, you know, if I was driving through Budapest and someone caused an explosion underneath my car, flipped me upside down and threw me down like some subway stairs, I'm pretty sure
that specific thing was that was a bit of a bridge too far. That specific moment, like,
I would definitely have a traumatic brain injury.
No, you would die. You would be dead.
Yeah,
because I forgot they do like flip and then fall down an entire staircase in the car into a subway station. You know, miraculously killing nobody. It was quite wonderful.
And then they just kind of get up, and she's like, "I got a cut on my arm that we got to bandage up."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's it. But otherwise, I'm okay. I don't have whiplash. I don't got a concussion. My spine's okay. Like,
yeah. Which, like, I will accept that in these movies.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. I did love at the end when they're all like having a little reunion post blowing up the Red Room, where they're like, "Is everybody okay?" And then Melina's like, "I am clearly injured."
Yeah, she has a great delivery there.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Melina a little bit, the mom?
Yes. Yeah, why not?
More minor of a character than I thought she would be, based on the marketing material. I mean, like, Rachel Weisz is relatively big deal. She was in The Mummy from the late 90s, the wonderful Mummy movies. 2 of them, at least. I haven't seen the 3rd one. But
yeah. Yeah, she's a big name. She's been around the block a time or two. Nothing else really comes to my head.
She was in that movie, The Favorite, with Emma Stone, that came out recently. I haven't seen it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, she was so good in that. Oh, yeah, she was excellent. Yeah, she's a fantastic actress. But yeah, she's her role it's not as significant as like others, but it is. I mean, she does still have her part to play. But yeah, it is not as much as I probably would have expected.
Yeah, one thing that confused me, or maybe not, maybe she was just like kind of a just following orders type person, but she never really seemed to second guess the work she was doing. And
yeah,
and it is an emotional moment when Because basically what she's doing is she came up with this like mental programming to basically brainwash people into following orders without question, and then there's a moment where Yelena is like, "Yeah, the people you programmed to do this, that was me," and it's like, "Oh, that sucks. Like that's really sad," and it's an emotional moment for all four of them, but at the same time, it's like, you should have known that, like what you sent your like fake daughters into the Black Widow program, and you're talking about how you're like programming these Black Widows. It's like, did you not care, or did you not think about it? Because it seemed like you did care, because you switched sides to help them out pretty quick after inflation. So it's just I hate whining about plot holes. It was just a weird one. It is a bit of a like character motivation plot hole, I suppose. Glad she didn't kill the pig, though. I thought she was going to kill that pig.
I know, me too. I was like, come on, that thing is smart. Don't do that to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a weird thing of being like, yeah, we certainly can't justify her actions by saying she was just following orders, you know.
Yeah, because a lot of people in history have just done that, and we know how that turns out.
Yes, she, for as smart as she was to figure out how to do this, like how to put together mind control, she should have been smart enough to realize, oh, they're going to use this for evil things, but whatever. It's communist Russia. It's whatever.
Well, it's not even anymore, though. It's. I think it was at the beginning of the movie. I think it was still Soviet Union, but I think the Soviet Union collapsed in '91. I think, and I think I don't remember when the opening of the movie takes place, which year it is specifically, but it was around the same time. So she's just working for, I don't even know. Is she working for the Russian government, or is Dreykov doing his own thing?
Yeah, from what I understood, it was like Dreykov was kind of his own entity, but
at this
I don't know.
Point, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of confusing if he was still like loosely associated with the Russians or not, but I kind of assumed he was. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I assume so too, and it's maybe it's meant to be a. Well, I don't know, because they kind of like wiped off Hydra, so I don't think he's Hydra. No, he wasn't. They explicitly say that it used to be Hydra, but it's not. So
gotcha.
He did. I think they're saying that he used to be affiliated with Hydra, but no longer is. I did enjoy that element of why Red Guardian's in prison, because I think since Red Guardian was like the face of this like front, that I think he even says that he was like, I was a patsy. So Dreykov just like probably pinned the entire operation on Alexei so that no one would ask questions while he kept working in the shadows. But it's kind of fun.
That's good way to tie that into the plot. Like while we're talking about Dreykov and everything, what were your thoughts on Dreykov as a villain?
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the neatness of him, to me, ties almost entirely back to the fact that Loki mentioned him all that time ago. Like, he's a pretty generic. He's in the movie maybe 10 minutes. But it's not about him, really. It's just about. It's more about the family unit coming back together, which I liked. I don't think it totally like landed emotionally, but I liked the idea of it, and I liked how quickly the family unit is able to come back together. Like, Melina betrays them before talking to them, and then has that, kind of maybe played out trope where she's like, oh no, I shouldn't have done it because I actually love you. But ends up with them immediately, and you think like, but it's a bait and switch. I like the bait and switch.
Yes, I like the bait and switch too. And yeah, I'd agree. Dreykov kind of just feels like the default setting Marvel villain, just with a Russian accent. It was just kind of like, yeah, just the default's fine. Just throw him in there. It'll be okay. Yeah. He's certainly not like a sympathetic villain like, Killmonger was, or
no,
or even like, U.S. agent, John Walker is, kind of like, you don't feel that kind of emotional struggle, and that's fine. We don't need that from him. He needs to just be the big bad villain, who Black Widow's taking down, and so I think he was fine. He was, but yeah, not nothing special.
I guess he works as like a bit of Black Widow's past that she thought was done with, and that she needs to. He's a loose end. She needs to wrap up before she goes and does Infinity War, and that's what he is. And
Yep. Yeah, where were all those widows for Infinity War? They should have been there to help out.
well, that's the crazy thing, because if you think about it, between the end of the movie, when actually, real quick, at the end when she sends everybody off, it's like, I'll deal with General Ross and the Americans.
Right?
How does she do that? I don't know. I guess she's just
Yeah.
that good. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of funny because we cut to, and I think some theaters had this as a mid-credit scene, but for us it was just the end of the movie where she's blonde and gets the Quinjet. That was just immediately after that scene for us. So I don't.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like she just slipped away somehow. She goes from like standing very proudly to being in a different spot with a new haircut and a new outfit. But what I was saying is, between when this movie takes place, which is up until Endgame, they were all in like relatively real time. So it was about 2016 to when the post-credit scene happens, which is 2024. Because remember,
Oh, right.
5-year time jump in Endgame. So it's been 8 years.
It's a long time.
Which is why when we talk about the post-credit scene, like, there is an established relationship in that post-credit scene, and that is how it's so established. It's been almost a decade since we have seen Yelena and the other widows, and presumably they are in the employ of this individual.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were we talking about a second ago? I don't remember.
It was just like the time jump. Yeah, I got lost too. Sorry, everyone.
It happens.
Got a little lost there. Well, yeah, let's move on to something else. I just had one note.
The vest.
Oh, what's? Oh, yeah, the vest. Let's talk about the vest. Yeah, I thought that was I thought that was so sweet, you know, of them to put the vest into this movie. You know, her sister Florence. I don't remember her name in the film.
Florence Pugh. Yelena is her character.
Yelena, thank you. Yelena, she buys this vest. It's the first piece of clothing she's ever bought for herself, and it's badass because it's got all these pockets, and I love it. I think it's such a cool vest. But, you know, then she hands it off to Natasha, and she says, it's yours now, whatever, you know. It's kind of got some sentiment behind it. And then she's seen wearing it in Infinity War, which is really sweet. You know, I don't remember if she wore it in Endgame
She
as
doesn't,
well.
but
Yeah,
it adds another bit of depth to the Infinity War retroactively. Like, I'm cool with retcons if they're good. This was a good one. It was nice.
Yeah, it was very sweet, and I think that added some, like, another layer to the family of being like, oh yeah, she brought that memento with her into battle. You know, even though she didn't really need it for her fight against Thanos' army. No. But I mean,
whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was super
costume.
cool.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Your initial question was, where were the widows in Infinity War?
Right, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
They were off doing something else. They didn't have time. I don't know. We don't need them in that movie.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I enjoyed Black Widow. I didn't, I wasn't in love with it, but it was fun to be back seeing Marvel movies. I think it's also hurt by coming out in the midst of all these Disney Plus shows that are just so good, especially Loki.
Yes, I would agree. I think it's been, because Loki, we'll talk about it next episode, but Loki, I feel like, has just kind of changed the game for those streaming shows. Like, it's just kind of upped the ante, and, the other two shows so far have been great, but, I think when you stack those shows, and even when you calculate in, like, the Spider-Man movie that came out before like, right after Endgame, I feel like Black Widow is probably the weakest of the 5 so far.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it just, similar to Captain Marvel, and I'm not comparing the two because they're the only female-led movies. Shut up. I'm comparing them because they both back for the majority, if not the entirety, of their runtime. Captain Marvel, I think, works in that regard a little bit more because it is an era that has previously been unexplored in the Marvel movies. So we're getting added depth to an era before the series started, the 1990s, and we see kind of the genesis of Nick Fury's idea for the Avengers. And we get some backstory for Carol Danvers, a character we have not met at that point before she becomes moderately important in Endgame. This Black Widow suffers from the opposite of that. We know Natasha is dead because we saw her die in Endgame. So instead of having the conclusion of her story be the last time we see her on screen, we're getting a flashback after she dies, which is kind of a bit of a bummer. Like, it makes me want to see more of her now.
Yeah, like it would be nice to see more of Black Widow's adventures, like especially on her own, you know, because she, after seeing this movie, it's like, yes, she can hold it on her own, and you know, she wants a side character like her sister, or like, you know, even if like Hawkeye wanted to join her, I would be fine getting a whole Budapest tale at some point in the future,
or just like commit to the spy genre more and do more spy stuff with her. But now if you bring her back, you're kind of diminishing some of the stakes of Avengers Endgame. So they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with her character specifically. And I think that was deliberate. Like, her sacrifice was meaningful in the movie. Like, it was an emotional. It was the emotional valley of the movie. Like, it's where everything went wrong, and it's in that film. But I think we've talked about this before. Or maybe I've talked about it on my YouTube channel. I don't remember. But like, how sometimes the individual character arcs and the needs of the broader cinematic universe are not totally in line with each other. Like Thor Ragnarok is a fantastic ending for Thor. The end of that movie is a perfect ending for that character, and in a regular, non-interconnected series, it would be the end, because he accomplishes his goal. He's finally mature enough to be the king. He's a good king. He's reunited with his brother, and they've saved their people, and the musical sting from like our introduction to Asgard from the first movie comes back, but the universe necessitates that Thor's story continues, and that entire victory is wiped out in the opening of the next movie.
So. Yeah, it's interesting when the individual needs don't line up with the larger grand scale needs, because like, the only thing that this really kind of set up for like the future of the MCU was just that post-credit scene with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. You know, that was interesting.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about that. Why not? Yeah, the post-credit scene. So just to recap, I'm sure if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what we're talking about. But if you wait all the way to the end and they don't kick you out, there's a scene where Yelena goes back to Florence Pugh's character. I'll just say that. I can't remember if I said the right name, but
it was Yelena.
Oh, thank you. She goes back to the grave of Natasha, and she puts down some flowers and kind of rearranges everything, make sure it looks neat and stuff. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, Miss Valentina,
it's Valentina Allegra.
Valentina Allegra.
Or it's the Contessa is what she's also called.
She shows up, and they have a little conversation, and she's like, here's the guy who you can get some justice for Natasha. Here's the guy
responsible for her death. Yeah,
the guy who's responsible for her death, and it's Hawkeye. What did you think of this post-credit scene?
I like the scene a lot, and I did find out since we last talked that this was meant to be the first time we saw this character. Because as you all will probably know, she shows up in a couple episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier. She recruits John Walker after he becomes disgraced. And so this was meant to be her first appearance. Not that it really changes all that much, but it seems, and from what I understand about her, she is basically like maybe not evil, but like not on the side of evil kind of counterpart to Nick Fury. And it seems, my kind of theory is that she is recruiting heroes of her own to make some sort of team, some sort of less pure Avengers. So she's got U.S. Agent, and now she has Florence Pugh, new Black Widow, under her employ, and she's manipulating Florence Pugh into going after Hawkeye. And Florence Pugh is in Hawkeye, the show that's upcoming. By the way, she's a
Excellent.
confirmed cast member, and I imagine that they will fight for a little bit, and then they'll team up.
Yep, that's exactly what I think too. They'll have like a little bit of a fist fight for like an episode or two, but ultimately she'll come around to Hawkeye's side, and eventually, the Hawkeye series will end with him passing the mantle as well to the next Hawkeye, and
To Haley Steinfeld, yeah.
to Haley Steinfeld, and then she'll team up with Florence Pugh, and they'll do their little Black Widow and Hawkeye dynamic again.
Black Widow and Hawkeye 2.0. I was about to say the same thing.
It'll be revitalized. It'll be great. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what Valentina's got going on in the future. Whether it's a Dark Avengers thing or whether it's like a Hydra spinoff, I'm very, very interested to see what comes next.
Yeah, and I think that's where we'll see Taskmaster too.
Really,
Because they all went off together,
Oh yeah.
And maybe even Red Guardian and Melina. I don't think she has an alter ego name, but I think they may all be under Valentina's employ in some way the next time we see them. So that kind of, fills out the sort of antagonist for now space of the MCU, of this like branch of the MCU. So it seems like setting up some more morally gray characters. Like they got Sharon Carter in Falcon and Winter Soldier. They have this agent. They have Yelena, who is like a Black Widow, but more edgy a little bit.
We got that White Vision flying around somewhere.
We got White Vision flying around. That's
and
I'm for now. But.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see if Loki introduces anything. That'll be moving forward. But maybe they're building up to a thing where it's like Yelena's Dark Avengers versus like the Thunderbolt team,
Or they are the same thing in this.
Yeah, or they're the same thing.
Maybe she is building the Thunderbolts because, in the comics it's General Ross, William Hurt, but he's, I don't know how many more of these he wants to do. He looked, like, I hate to say something like this, but he looked a lot older in this one, so he may be not wanting to do these for forever.
Yeah, and I feel like, when you're
I
just...
don't know if I should have said that, but...
I think it's fine. I think, when you're like a good actor, you're kind of... You've had a long career, and then a Marvel movie opportunity comes along, you'll do it. But then, like, if you're not, like, doing the action scenes and everything, you're just kind of like, this is kind of boring.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess and I like his character, and I like him in it. I don't like General Ross. He's an asshole, but he's a fun character to have around. He's like a spokesperson for the U.S. government. Like when
he's got a good kind of antagonistic role
how
to
old
the
is
good guys.
William Hurt? Let's see.
I got no idea.
William Hurt. William Hurt is he's only 71. He's fine.
Oh yeah, so he could keep doing these movies for another few years, but
He's
I
younger
feel
than
like
Sam Jackson. He is. He's
really
younger than Sam Jackson.
How old is Samuel Jackson?
He's 72.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I thought he would be like a 60s or something.
No, think about how long he's been doing movies, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I'll always just envision him as his character from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
That's how I'll always view
Sam Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know how much else I have to say about Black Widow. I like it fine. It's not my favorite Marvel movie. I wish it leaned more into the spy stuff that we saw at the beginning, tonally and stylistically, because it starts off like that, and like she even has a little contact that helps her out, who is, I think it's funny that character got his own character poster for the movie. He's in like, I like where it leaves off, where she like gets the Quinjet and goes off to like be an Avenger again. I just don't think it. Like, I think it doesn't add a whole lot to her character's journey, ultimately. It just provides her with a supporting cast that they can lean on going forward, which is what they're going to do. Which is fine, because those characters are fun. But...
Yeah, I feel like, it was missing a little bit of some emotional development for Natasha. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but yeah, I was kind of hoping for more of an origin story for Black Widow, where we got like a little bit more of her training and where she came from, and even like maybe if we got like a glimpse of her original family, even though she
Mm-hmm.
was just kind of like abandoned by her mother, like that kind of would have been interesting. Like even if she had some like distant memories of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, my mother once like read this bedtime story to me or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
something like that could have been interesting, but
Yeah.
just
I did love that part at the beginning where, because she's a little bit older than Yelena is, and when Alexi's like, we're going to go on that big adventure I talked about, and Yelena's all excited because it's like, yay, an adventure, but Natasha knows what it is, and she's
yeah.
happy about it. And just good on that actress, the one who plays young Natasha. She did a really good job. I didn't,
Yeah, you should.
but she was really good.
Yeah, usually kid actors I don't want anywhere in the movie at all, and I think she did a really good job, and you could immediately tell too which one was Natasha because she had the blue hair. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, she's always been dyeing her hair. We know
Yeah.
that as her character. Like, so it was very clear who was who, and yeah, and I liked it was kind of a sweet beginning where they were talking about, the fireflies, and then
Yeah.
it ends the movie with like a shot of the fireflies, as she's
Uh-huh.
kind of flying off, which was kind of
It
a nice
does.
callback.
Yeah. And I just like how they were in such deep cover, and clearly the mom, like Melina, maybe it's Melina, but she didn't seem like she really wanted to leave. And it was, I mean, they didn't have a choice; they were going to get arrested. But the Red Guardian wanted to go be a Red Guardian again. So, but
Yeah.
I like the depth that is added to the parents by the end. Like they do both come around and they help out, even though you think maybe they won't. And yeah, I almost think it would have been fine if it was a smaller scale, like just the family has to deal with this guy. I don't need the. Oh wait, what did you think of the Red Room being like a floating fortress in the clouds? In a cloud
I liked.
that it seemed to be making itself.
Yeah, I liked it honestly. I thought that was really cool. Marvel's always kind of done that stuff with the floating
Yeah,
fortress
they got the
above the
helicarriers
sky.
and everything.
I think those things are. I mean, when I first saw the helicarrier in the first Avengers movie, I couldn't stop laughing because it was so absurd. Like, seriously, that thing's gonna fly?
But now it seems quaint, doesn't it? We've come so far.
It does. I liked the Red Room in the Sky. It was it's like poetry, like it rhymes. It's kind of funny, and you know, I don't know. If I was kind of like a KG or the head of like a KGB kind of agency, I'd want a floating fortress in the sky too. Like, why the fuck not? Yeah. Yeah, I guess one other thing, I didn't really write it down here in our notes, but one thing that I think could have been cool, like we didn't really need it, would maybe just be like some more background on like the pathogen thing that like disrupts your brain control thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, because it was just like, oh yeah, and one of the Black Widows made this thing to like stop the brain control, and it's like, are we not? We don't get to know who that is or how she developed it or where it came from or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, which is fine. We don't need to. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, whatever.
It is kind of just introduced. It was like very early on, Florence Pugh just gets hit with it, and it's like, ooh, and then wakes up totally fine after that. It was kind of strange.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I think that was the right way to do it, where it's just like, okay, we don't need to explain it. Just go with it. Just throw it in there. But it's just kind of like, oh, this person put a lot of work into developing this anti-brain control serum thing, and we're just kind of glossing over their story, but it's not their story to tell this time.
No, it's not. But yeah, I mean, go watch Black Widow if you like these movies. If you don't, this isn't going to win you over.
Yeah, would fully agree. I feel like this is like I said earlier, there's a back to basics kind of spy thriller kind of film. It feels like Captain America 2, the Winter Soldier, like deep undercover. You're trying to find out who the Winter Soldier is and bring him back to the right side or whatever. And you get that kind of feeling of the undercover spy agent thriller here. And I really appreciated just like how it felt like a return to classic. Like they're going to go off and do more sci-fi adventure stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the next Thor movie and all the other cool sci-fi multiverse stuff that's coming up. So I'm glad that we got another story that was just like,
Yeah.
take a breath, step back, reset kind of deal.
Before we switch topics, though, on the note of the multiverse, two things. One, did you see the trailer for What If, the animated?
Yes.
That looks cool. Looks very exciting. But two, I would love it if when we go to the multiverse places in live action, and I don't think they're going to do this, but if they had characters like Steve and Tony or whoever, multiverse versions of them played by like other actors that auditioned for the role but didn't get cast, like, or were considered for the role. Like, could you imagine if we're on a different parallel Earth and then Iron Man lands and then the mask comes off and it's like Tom Cruise?
That would be so cool.
And you have like a John Krasinski Captain America because he was in the running for the role too. And maybe their boss is David Hasselhoff Nick Fury because he played Fury in the 1990s. Like, do weird shit like that. And then you're not even locking those actors off from future appearances in the main MCU because they could be different characters in the main continuity. I just think that would be fun.
I like that.
And there would be a huge like money sink to get Tom Cruise or somebody to show up as Iron Man for 5 minutes. But
that would be so cool. You could pull in Edward Norton again for the Hulk.
They're not going to do that. But yeah,
I know. Yeah. But I'd love that, get a bunch of different variety of faces in there, especially because they did that, so well in the Loki show, and there could be a whole universe of just like everyone's an animal character, like the alligator.
Oh my God, yes, the alligator.
That would be so
Loki
fun.
Is so good so far. I want to save it for next episode, but it's such a fun show. And
yes,
I am curious who the big bad's gonna be.
Me too. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. People probably listening to this podcast may already know who it is, so whatever.
Yeah, I guess people may have stayed up until midnight or later, depending on your time zone, to watch it. If you did, shut the fuck up until I have a chance to watch it myself. Yeah, do you have any other thoughts on Black Widow?
No, not really. I mean, the last thing I'll say is just, I'd probably give it, like a 7 out of 10 or something like that. Like if we're going to do a number rating, It wasn't the best MCU movie I've ever seen, but I appreciate the return to like the classic format and like, I like the characters.
Yeah.
And, it could have been better, but it was still a really great film in my eyes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from Black Widow going into it. I was, pretty excited from the first little bit of the movie we saw, but yeah, it was good. It was fine. Better than the worst Marvel movies, but nowhere near the best. It's a solid,
totally.
It's a solid like spy genre adjacent superhero movie, and it's always fun to see Scarlett Johansson get to play Black Widow.
Yeah. What a dame.
Maybe they'll find some bullshit way to bring her back in at some point.
They just got to take one of those soul stones from the
from the
TVA, and just bring it back in and just go, and then she'll come back.
Well, that like begs the question too, because Gamora is also dead from the thing, and Guardians 3 is going to be kind of weird if she's dead, So I wouldn't be shocked if a big part of that movie is finding a way to bring Gamora back. Because at the end of Endgame, Peter Quill is looking for Gamora, and the common like assumption is that he's looking for the one that they pulled out of time. But I don't think he's doing that. I think he's looking for his Gamora, the one that is his team, because I don't know, that's just my thought. And so I would imagine like a big part of his motivation is going to be finding his girlfriend so she's not anymore. So if they do resurrect Gamora, that opens the door for resurrecting Black Widow. And
sure,
not that that's necessarily a good thing to do, but the movie treats Tony's death with so much more weight than it treats hers that I feel like it's less of a crime to bring her back than it would to bring him back. Because once and also how like just So they have their big girl power moment in Endgame. You remember, like where all the female
Yep.
characters like get in a shot together, despite the fact that they were all over the place like 10 seconds before. But you killed off your most prominent female character before you did that shot. It's like just a little bit of a misfire.
Yeah,
But like
a little bit.
if they ever resurrect Tony, I will be pissed, and I think it's a dumb idea. But I feel less so about Black Widow because I don't feel like she got as satisfying of a send off. Like she was the sacrifice. She wasn't the
Yeah, she deserved better than what she got. But
yeah.
yeah, I would be open to that too if she wanted to get resurrected at some point in the future. But yeah, not super soon.
No, not super
bit,
soon.
A little bit down the line. A little bit down the line would be fine with me.
And it's got to make sense. Like it's got to feel right if you're gonna do it. Don't just do it because she's a big name and she's a big character. Do it if it's right.
Sure.
What other stuff have you been watching or reading or playing?
Yeah. So, speaking of Rachel Weisz, just the other night we watched The Mummy, the 1999 version. Yeah, classic. I actually don't think I'd seen it before, so it was nice to actually finally watch the movie, and it was fun. It's a good original. The CGI is not the best for The Mummy.
It was the 90s, so, to be fair.
Yes, it was 1999. I mean, I think Jurassic Park came out around the same time, and that CGI was phenomenal. But they also had puppets and stuff.
Yeah,
but
sure, that's fair.
but no. I mean, limits of their own time. Like the CGI just kind of took me out of it a little bit. But it was still a fun movie, and Brendan Fraser, he was, because I hadn't seen it before. It was surprising, like his kind of character, like the way his character was. I was like, suspecting more of like a scientist kind of man, And then it's like, oh, he's an Indiana Jones kind of character.
Yeah,
that's
The
kinda
Mummy
cool.
is very much like Indiana Jones light, I think. And
yeah,
it's perfect at that. It's a favorite genre of mine that is basically dead. The adventure genre. Like the adventure genre is so rare now. If you the CGI in The Mummy 1 was bad though. Just wait till you watch The Mummy Returns and you see the Scorpion King played by one Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh gosh, I think I've seen those pictures before.
Inexplicably, because he's like half scorpion, half man, right? Like you would think the scorpion part would be CGI, and then you would just have like the top half of The Rock.
Yeah.
But no. CGI The Rock.
They went overboard. They were like, we don't know what to do. Let's just do all of it.
They pulled a George Lucas. They relied too heavily on the technology before it was ready.
But yeah, The Mummy was fun. I watched that. That was a good movie. We finished the 12th season of RuPaul's Drag Race. So we with the exception of season 1 and 2, which we don't really have any intention of watching because they were such low budget seasons.
Yeah.
That they just don't really appeal to us. We are all caught up now on all the regular RuPaul's Drag Race seasons, so got to find some other Drag Race content to watch now. But I guess I finished a lot recently. I finished the Invincible comics.
The hell?
All of
you
them.
just got that last week. Oh my god.
I went crazy. I read them all. I sat in the park one morning and just read a lot in the hammock.
No, it was last week. It was like a week and a half ago because we went to the comic store together. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the comic store together, Mile High Comics. If you guys ever in Denver, go check them out. They're really cool.
It was a cool spot. Yeah.
But yeah, we had just got the third compendium, and I've read it in about 2 weeks, a week and a half, something like that. And yes, I'm so satisfied with the ending. It's a very terrific ending. And,
good.
I'm excited to talk about the next season of Invincible when that comes out. Yeah. Very distant in the future. What about you, Dylan? What have you been up to lately?
Well, I finally started The Queen's Gambit. I watched the first episode. It was excellent. I will continue to watch it. And I mentioned it last episode, I think, but I also I watched the first episode of Sweet Tooth. I haven't really watched much TV at all since then, though, so I haven't watched any more of that. But I also discovered that my PC is capable of running Cyberpunk 2077. So
nice.
I bought it and I started it. It's been really fun so far. I was waiting because I don't have next gen consoles yet. Xbox Series X, forgot what it was called, or PS.
Me neither.
Because one, they're expensive, and two, I literally can't find one. So I was off because I know the Xbox One version of the game is garbage, apparently. So I hadn't played it, but I found out my PC can run it quite well. So I got it, and it's been... I'm only like 5 hours in, but it's been really cool so far.
Nice. And you're streaming that, right?
I am streaming that. Oh, yeah, I've started doing Twitch. If anybody wants to watch my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/dday_movies, I think. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but tag along, you know.
It's part of the experience. We're learning as we go.
Yes, exactly. It's all... it's learning this type of stuff. Like, there's some people who are really good at making content for, like, things you need to know when you're starting out Twitch streaming or making a podcast or making a YouTube channel or whatever. But so much of it, like, especially when you get into the audio or the camera realms or lighting, it's like, if you go on the forums and stuff, like, it's so deep in jargon, and they have all these, like, it's like, you just got to use your, like, NC560, you know, man. And it's like, no, I don't know what that means. I just made that. It doesn't mean anything. But, like, you wouldn't know for a lot of these, and it's even, like, PC gaming. If you wanted to build a PC and you knew nothing about computers and you went online for help, it's like, good luck, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
What people are talking about. But that's part of the process, too. Just learning what all that stuff
Oh, yeah.
and how it operates. But it's been fun so far.
Nice. I'm going to have to check out this stream at some point.
Oh, yeah. Come hang out, man.
We'll do sometime, yeah. That sounds like fun. Well, where else can people find you online, Dylan?
People can find me on Instagram at DylanD1026 and on Twitter at DDayMovies. On YouTube, I'm also DDayMovies, but find me through my social media. Otherwise, you'll just get World War II clips. Whoopsies. And you can find me on Twitch, as I just said, as well. I have a link tree for all of that in the description below. Niles, where can people find you online?
Yeah, people, right now you can follow me on Instagram if you would like. I sometimes post some cool photos on occasion. So if you want, I'm a Niles Got No Styles on Instagram. So feel free to give me a follow. And yeah, I'm not streaming or doing any videos otherwise. But we hope that you guys are enjoying the podcast if you're listening and enjoying the content that we're putting out. We really enjoy making these episodes, so please like and subscribe for Play, Pause, Rewind, please. We would greatly appreciate that. Yeah,
share it around too if you think other people you know would like it, and if you want to reach us, eventually we may do audience questions, but we've got to get some first. Play, Pause, Rewind pod at gmail.com. I should link that in the description too now that I think about it, but that you can get in touch with us if you would like to. And until next time, we're talking about Loki in 2 weeks. We're doing a little bit of a MCU kick there. So take the 2 weeks between now and then to catch up on the Loki show if you haven't, and join us for that episode. Should be a good time.
Yeah, looking forward to it, seriously.
Have a good half month, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.